Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, that subscribe, maybe that notification bell too? If you really fancy it, sure, why not? And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story is a bit of a different one. It has like two sections to it that has a viewpoint from another person. I could read these either way around, but I'm going to start with wife's point of view. From a throwaway account who says, my husband told someone he was out with his little sister. He doesn't have one. I've been married to my husband for a long time. We have kids, a house, and pets together. We have an active sex life. We go on dates often and share a lot of the same hobbies. Today, he's at a pool party with our oldest son. I took our youngest to the water park in town where I ran into one of the other mums I know. We started talking and she mentioned at one point that it had been so nice to meet my husband's younger sister last week and asked if she was my sister or his. I replied that neither one of us has a sister and asked her what the woman looked like. She said she was young and petite with dark hair. I only have a much younger brother with red hair and he has a brother who is over 6 foot, so neither one of us has a sibling who could be confused for a sister. He doesn't have any cousins and I do, but he's not close with any of them. I'm freaking out because obviously the first thing my mind goes to is he's cheating. I remember him going to the park last week and he never made any mention of meeting up with anyone or hanging out with anyone there. My youngest son isn't old enough to tell me. I can't get through to him because his phone isn't on him since they're in the pool. So now I'm just here freaking out because my mind is going wild. So we do have an update to this post and then we go to someone else's viewpoint, which I'll explain in a moment. And the comments are pretty much just talking about the post with the update as well. So we'll cover that in just a moment and we won't cover any comments as yet. But yes, automatically, like your mind is going to, my mind is going to cheating as well. Why would he make up a lie about having a sister? You know he hasn't got one. So why is he coming out with this? What's going on? It can only be that one thing, right? Well, I guess that's not necessarily true. It could be other things, but the chances are very, very slim because I can't even think of one. But so the update says, when I got home with our son, I simply said, Trish said she ran into you at the park. She said you were with someone you introduced as your sister. Who was it? I knew something was up because he was just silent and he didn't say anything. Then he just said, okay, we need to talk. Do you want to do this now or later? Obviously I said now, so he told the boys to go play downstairs. He admitted he'd been planning on leaving me for a while, but he wanted to wait for the right time to do it. He said he had met someone else he had feelings for. He had met her last year and things happened slowly. He said he never cheated on me physically, but there were a lot of times he was doing work when he was really texting her or going into his office to FaceTime her, and they would sometimes meet up. I asked him why he felt okay bringing our son around this person, and he said it was because our son already knew her, which is when I found out that his little sister and person he's leaving me for is our son's daycare teacher. My husband is the one who drops off every morning, so I guess that's how they met. Should have guessed something was up when he began volunteering to go and pick him up as well. He seemed apologetic and kept repeating that he never did anything physical and that he wanted to remain civil for the kids. I still haven't fully processed any of this. He's living in the basement apartment until we get things figured out. Then apparently OP said in the comments that there's a 13-year age difference between him and the preschool teacher. He said she was his sister because the other mum saw them hugging and he needed to think of an excuse. So as I said, we do have another viewpoint to this, which comes from the friend that was at the park who saw them. So we're going to cover that in a second, but first we're going to go to some comments, starting with Nobody Wins 13, who says he is keeping things civil because he is protecting her job. I worked in daycare. I even operated a small daycare out of my home. Getting involved with a married parent is an ethical line you do not cross. I would bet that he had a physical relationship with her. He spent time with her and your child. How confusing was that for your child, by the way? Make sure to tell your lawyer that, and now he is trying to convince you that he hasn't done anything, so you will not go to the daycare and report her. Mountain Monitor says he is lying. If they were seeing each other for a year, then they are physical too. It's just to lessen the blow to protect his infidelity and her. Definitely see a lawyer and get the financial affairs in order. The lawyer will advise if and how to put a formal complaint to the daycare. Do not discuss any of your plans with him. Brian says if he wanted to remain civil for the kids, starting an emotional affair surely was not the way to go. Well, I promise at least we never had sex. As if he's not already put a bond between you two. OP, definitely take all the time you need to process this and revisit the situation to talk when you are calm. It's really silly of him to try and say he wanted to be civil when he was actively cheating on you, going on dates and talking to her. It's really weird for him to say that he still wants to be civil. Monshu says, I'm so sorry OP. Translation for wanting to keep it civil. He doesn't want you to torpedo her job, which she put in jeopardy by having an affair with a married client. That's on them, not you. Also, he's lying about not getting physical. You don't kill your marriage if it hasn't. Again, so sorry. Quita Quite says, don't wait until we get things figured out. Go and find yourself the best divorce attorney you can and afford and read up on talking to kids about divorce and find a new daycare. The audacity of your husband to think it's okay to bring your child around his mistress regardless of who she is beyond disrespectful and demeaning. Get a lawyer and get all you can. And one more from my knife fold away who says the little sister lie is disrespectfully lazy of him. He's lying about who it is. Could have just said it was his daycare teacher and they ran into each other and didn't even bother thinking about it or be careful about who you might run into. That is just rude and completely messed up. It's bad enough to carry on this relationship and lie about it, but that's just flagrant. So now we're going to look at another point of view from this. This was from the friend, Trish, who was at the park and spotted them. So my life is never exciting, so this is the first time I've ever had something to post. So I have a 4-year-old and we were at the park. I saw one of my son's friends and his dad, standing with a woman who I knew looked familiar, who wasn't his wife. I'm kind of jaded and assume the worst in of everyone, but I try to remind myself to not do that and to be more open-minded. Lo and behold, 2 minutes after just seeing him out of the corner of my eye, this girl he was with whispers something into his ear. She does like this flirty little giggle and then he wraps his arms around her waist and hugs her. I'm immediately seeing red because this guy is legitimately cheating on his wife directly in front of their kid, in public. But whatever in my head, I'm thinking that maybe they are swingers or have an open relationship, and I'm definitely not one to shame anyone's life. So at this point I walk up to him because I was 100% going to tell people about this and I wanted to at least let him be aware that I saw him. So I walk up and I'm like, hey James, and he looks like a deer in the headlights, which is crazy to me because even though this isn't a super crowded park, it's still a park and obviously there might be people with kids who know him there. Anyway, he introduces this girl as his sister. I know that adoptive, chosen, foster, half, step siblings exist, so it wasn't the fact that they look absolutely nothing alike that made me know that was a lie. It was because nobody whispers or hugs on their sister like that. I think I should also add that I'm the most awkward person ever. So at this point, I bet my voice was like 100 octaves higher than it usually is, and I was like, oh whoa, so great to meet you. I love your brother and his wife. Such a lovely couple. And then I snatched my kid up and left. Lol. So she doesn't have social media, and I don't have her number, but I know she goes to that park sometimes, so I went back every single day. My kid loved it until I saw her there. So even though I had all this time to plan out what I was going to say to her, I had no idea. I didn't want to sound like I was accusing him of anything if he wasn't cheating, and I didn't want it to seem like I was doing an aha, I caught you, if they did have an open marriage or were swingers or anything. So the totally smooth person I am legit just goes up to her and I'm like, oh, it was great to meet your husband's sister. Is she his sister or yours? I wanted to die right there. What the hell kind of question is that? She looked at me like I had 8 heads, but thank God neither one of them has a sister, so she was just asking me questions about the woman. Anyway, it turns out he was having an affair right in public in a park in front of his kid. And the best or worst part is that this lady was the kid's daycare teacher, and that's how they met. The wife pulled her kid, and obviously the owner of the daycare wanted to know why, and she told her. So the owner of the daycare freaked out on his teacher and put her on leave, and now the worker is saying that she's going to sue for wrongful termination since the affair with the husband happened off of daycare property and she didn't do anything wrong during work hours. Look, I'm not about cheating or anything like that, but at a public park, what was that guy thinking? He's going to go on a date with his affair partner in a public place where people take their children, and she's a teacher as well. Oh my word. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from a throwaway account who says, "Am I the arsehole for giving my wedding photographer a bad review? I got married 2 months ago. It was a moderate affair. Open bar, nice dress, no kids at a slightly more upscale place than I would have liked, but I guess you only live once. We hired a photographer through a company, a mid-sized place that assigned you an employee. We met with her a few times to go over expectations, venues, etc. No red flags, nothing weird. Day of the wedding, she shows up in a sheer white blouse with lace, completely see-through, with no bra. I noticed, my husband noticed, everyone noticed. I and most of my guests just spent the evening trying to look away. All through the reception I could overhear people talking about it or joking about it. My husband and I had a good laugh about it after everything was done. Just sort of, what the fuck was that? Did that really happen? I guess every wedding needs a weird story. At least mine didn't involve a guest. A couple of weeks ago, we got the photo package. It was good and in line with what we paid for. 2 days later, I get one of those automatic emails for a survey asking how they did. Overall, I rated them well and even rated the photographer well, except for the professional category. I gave a 3 out of 5 and in the box filled in that I felt her clothing could be more professional. A manager called me for more clarity. I explained the outfit and said it wasn't a big deal but wasn't really situationally appropriate. Manager didn't say much but sounded serious and thanked me for informing them. End the story, right? Well, nope. On the weekend, photographer girl shows up, drunk on my lawn, wearing 3 bras and starts screaming at my house. Long story short, she was let go from her job and felt I was the arsehole to blame. Eventually, we had to call the police to have her removed. People I know are torn. Some think it was funny and I should have let it go. Others think it deserved to be called out. Am I the arsehole? Here it says, "Not the arsehole, you gave a fair and honest review." It sounds like this wasn't the only time that employee had shown up for events inappropriately dressed. The photographer should blend into the background and not be noticeable. Not be the thing that stands out about your wedding. She got herself fired and you did nothing wrong. Diffrey replies saying, "Lots of cases of people feeling bad for leaving bad reviews or filing complaints seems to come across this sub. If the reason for filing the complaint is genuine, it's not your fault for complaining. Ultimately, it's the consequence of the person's own actions. Honestly, if you are a wedding photographer, you should know better than to wear white or anything that draws attention to a wedding, and the company she worked for seems to agree. This is not to say women should always have to wear a bra, but a sheer white top at a wedding is pretty obviously overstepping a couple of widely accepted expectations." Deep Fudge says, "Not the arsehole, and you didn't leave a bad review. One data point you marked low, the rest you didn't. You were honest and she was unprofessional for a wedding." Independent Luck says, "Not the arsehole, maybe her boss is the arsehole for firing her over that. Unless of course there were other issues. Based on her reaction, it seems like there could have been other issues." Significant Bother says, "Not the arsehole, anyone who works in the wedding industry should know and understand the expectations for appropriate dress at a wedding, especially since they know what venue they are going to. Wearing white is bad to begin with, but wearing something sheer to the point that people are noticing and commenting is totally unprofessional. If a supervisor called for more information and then fired her after hearing from you, then this isn't the first time it's been an issue." And one more from Yeehaw who says, "Not the arsehole. Oh my god, as far as interesting wedding stories goes, this one is up there. Her attire is incredibly unprofessional, especially for a wedding. I would almost guarantee this is an ongoing issue because otherwise, I don't think most managers would be calling for follow-up information on a 3 out of 5 review, especially when the rest of the review was positive." Now, what do you guys make of this situation? Some people even commented that maybe she didn't notice her top was showing that much, revealing that much. But what do you guys think of this one? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from Puzzled Wife 22, who says, "Am I the arsehole for refusing to pay for my husband's family to go on vacation with us and then leaving without him? I'm 45 female. I share 4 beautiful children, 23, 20, 17 and 14, with my husband, male 49. We've been together for nearly 30 years and married for 24. We always take a big family vacation every summer. Due to COVID, that was put on hiatus. Usually he pays for his parents and vice versa. Together, we pay for our children. One of his brothers needed help, so my husband decided to cover him and his family. My husband retired a couple of years ago. We've always had separate accounts and a joint account. He's always been an avid hunter and fisherman. We're not rich, but we do live comfortably. I managed our finances to get us to this point. Now, when he retired, he started managing his money because I didn't agree with his irrational purchases. He recently invested a large portion of his savings into a large hunting tract, citing it was a steal he couldn't turn down. Mind you, we live on a large property where the hunting game is in abundance. I didn't understand the need to buy more acreage. Maybe it's a hunting thing. If there's any hunters on here, please let me know. I reminded him that our trip was coming up and they should have waited to make the purchase, since to cover his brother and family of 6 plus his parents would be expensive. He assured me that he had it covered. I come home to a pretty boat in our driveway. I don't know a thing about boats, but all I saw was money. My husband receives a nice pension each month, but a percentage of it goes to our joint account and the rest to his savings. I calculated the land, and finally learning about the price of the boat, I knew he couldn't possibly have enough to cover the trip, which included our kids as well. So I asked him how he was planning on paying. He said he had it covered. Time rolls around for us to book everything. He mentions that he noticed I had a significant amount of money in my personal account and was wondering if I could pay for the entire trip and he would pay me back his half. I told him no. He was aware of this trip and ignored it. My husband hates owing anybody, and therefore he would find a reason why he shouldn't have to pay me back, which is a con artist move to me. I proposed he sign an agreement to repay me with interest if he didn't pay me back in a set amount of time. We had a huge argument about it. He ended up leaving. I called and texted. No response. I received nasty texts from mother-in-law, sister-in-law, and his sisters about how I was treating him. Therefore, I booked my family and I was even kind enough to purchase his ticket, though I hadn't seen or heard from him in over 2 weeks. The moment we left for vacation, the harassing calls and texts started. I turned my phone off and enjoyed my vacation. I came home to a nasty letter and his wedding ring, stating that he wouldn't be returning until I apologized to him and his family for how I treated them. I'm not apologizing, but I am wondering, am I wrong for not paying and suggesting him paying me back? Am I the arsehole? And we're going to start off with Orange Cubit, who says I'm not the arsehole. Of course he had a plan. That plan was always that you would pay. Let him leave with his boat and his piece of land and his awful family, and he can go figure it out on his own. Brown Sugar Bear replies to that saying this man bought a goddamn boat without mentioning it to his partner, then got butthurt his financially sound partner refused to pay for his family for a vacation. OP, good riddance, and not the arsehole. He can live on his boat. Out of curiosity, how did your kids react to their father being so selfish? OP replied saying, they were the ones who were like, Mum, he doesn't deserve to go. Let him and his family find their own way. Redditor says, what the hell did I just read? Your husband is acting like a child. His impulse purchases are not a reason for you to dip into your savings, especially since you are probably not on the titles for either of them. The fact that he probably won't pay you back vindicates you further. Not the arsehole, you might be better off without him. Look out for yourself in the event of a divorce. As a famous Reddit quote says, a failure to prepare on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine. This is a perfect example of that. Jazz Like Humor says not the arsehole, he's playing games, using the money to buy toys for himself. Are you even on the papers for the hunting track or land? Clearing out his own money, then looking to spend yours. I hate to say it, but it is something that people sometimes do when planning a divorce, but before bringing it up, to give them more money after the divorce. Do your paperwork carefully and do your homework to make sure you know what he's planning. Opie replied saying he purchased the hunting tract out of his own money. But our marital home and property, yes, my name is on the deed. I'm definitely just sitting back and observing things now. And one more from Haribo Gummy Bear, who says not the arsehole. When he said he had it covered, what he really meant was you have it covered. I'd send him a return certified letter telling him he doesn't need to come home. You won't be apologizing, and enclose the ring and suggest that he pawns it for some ready cash and get a lawyer. Do you really want to spend the rest of your life with somebody who treats you like a bank and then sicks his family on you when you won't fund their vacation? Now, what do you guys make of this situation? How would you deal with it? There was some comments in there saying, would you really end a relationship over an argument like this? What do you guys think of that? Let me know your thoughts. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, support, and time always means the absolute world to me. It's incredible, mind-blowing. So thank you so much for being awesome. And hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys, and much love.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go, see the sun shining from the windows. Okay, I know that today